Good morning. This is Blair with a Live and Learn Gardening channel, and I am going to do another garden tour. There is a gap in the rain if you are in the Austin area. It's been raining for the last weekend, maybe really weak. But last weekend it was a crazy rainstorm, just really intense thunder, and my dogs were going nuts all night. It was like a 6-hour storm or something. But so this will be really interesting to show you the garden tour after a big rainstorm and all of the effects that that has. Usually it's just growth, but in some cases you'll notice I've pulled out a few plants because they actually started rooting at the base. Now these were mostly things that had been there since probably over winter even, or definitely very, very early spring, like February or so. And so these things are they were ready to come out of the garden. I was just kind of letting them stay there, maybe get a couple more kale leaves, that sort of thing. But they were ready to come out of the garden anyway, so it wasn't a big loss. But it was really surprising in a few cases. I'll post a picture and maybe I'll do a video on the parsley that I pulled out. It was just completely flattened, which kind of surprised me. And then I looked at it and the whole base and root had rotted out. So anyway, there's always going to be losses in the garden, and plants have a life cycle, and they're not going to survive forever. So even if you have tomatoes that are absolutely beautiful in May and June, they may completely die out in August. You may plant a new crop in September. Some folks cut back their tomato plants with a couple of leaves and kind of keep them alive and baby them through August, and then they'll come back with their root system in September. That's if you don't have a lot of disease on them. So just something to think about. Every plant has its time and its life cycle, and not all of them are, no plant is going to survive forever, even trees. Some trees have a 50-year lifespan, some have hundreds, but there's a lifespan to kind of every plant. And when something rots or dies out, I just kind of think, okay, it's its time. I get frustrated if it's like an animal that dug it up, or aphids or something like that, a pest that I feel like I could have avoided. That's when I tend to get upset. But generally, if it's going to rot out because it's too wet, then it was that plant's time. So I'm going to show you some kind of changes to the garden. And I think it'll be some big changes this week because there's been a lot of rain and kind of some mild weather, and the plants have just been happily growing. So let's get started, and I'll show you this kind of mid-May garden tour. All right, I'm going to start with my pepper/green bean bed. It's kind of funny because my original plan for the garden was to put green beans there, and then I changed the plan, and then it ended up with them back being there because I didn't plant as many peppers as I had been planning because there was kohlrabi there for a while. And I think I have enough pepper plants, and so I decided to give the green beans another go. I have historically had lots of issues with green beans, so you'll see I'm kind of babying them here. These are doing fine. That's not part of the green bean plant. That was actually a flower that was growing on it. But these guys are doing fine, especially these. I think they're the contender beans. They're standing up on their own just fine. But you'll see I'm kind of babying these. These are Royal Burgundy purple beans, and they've kind of fallen over, and the pill bugs were on them, and you know how I feel about pill bugs if you've watched much of my channel. So I decided to prop them up so the pill bugs wouldn't crawl on them quite as readily. But they seem to have survived so far, and we'll see. I know they're planted. I don't know if they're planted too close or not. The package says like 4 inches apart. So they're actually probably the right consistency. There's a few that are maybe a little close, but I think they'll be okay. There's definitely, probably this guy's a little close to this. I'm just gonna pull this leaf off. There's lots of new growth on here, so I'm gonna just clean this guy up real quick. These older leaves just are inefficient at this point. But yeah, this is a pepper plant, just a basic red bell beauty. And I think it'll take off now that I had this is one of the casualties. So I had a kale plant that was right in here. I don't even know if you can see its root system anymore, but there was a kale plant that was right here. And in this last storm, the whole base of it rotted out. So I just chopped it off at the roots and left the rest here. I left the root system in the ground just to keep the structure of the soil. And I just kind of chopped it off right at the soil level. This guy was growing all over it, so I'm spilling it out the side. I don't want it to necessarily take garden space, but I do love these morning glory flowers. They're just so precious to me. So I always try to let them have a little bit of space in my garden, though off the edge is better than in the bed. All right, let's talk about peppers. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about peppers. Oh wait, let's talk about this guy first because he's front and center. This is celery, and I planted these guys actually from seed, but you can get a start. That's how I got my first celery, was with the start. And you'll see that just looks like a stalk right from the store. So it's still a little small, and I won't actually lop the whole thing off. I'll just pull these outside branches as I need them for a meal, and the plant will just keep growing, which is a lot of fun to see. This guy was a little bit behind. This is one of those pepper plants. So I think it's made a lot of progress since even a week ago. It's really gotten a lot taller there and just looks really happy and healthy. This is another one of those that I planted that was a little bit behind. So this one and that one over there were all planted at the same time, and just kind of shows you, it kind of depends on where they are sunlight wise, depends on, you know, the plant itself, whatever pest pressure it has, how it goes. But oh my gosh, look at this. This is my ancho poblano. I've never grown this before, wasn't sure how it was going to do, but look at all those peppers on there, and a few of them are starting to get pretty big. So I'll have to look up what their official size is supposed to be. Let's see. It says 4.5-inch fruits. All right, well, that's maybe 3, 4. I don't know. I'll have to go get a tape measure and check it out. But those are starting to look really good. Can't wait to try cooking those up. This guy, oh, look at that. Lots and lots of blooms. So that's exciting. Lots and lots of blooms. But that's going to be my purple bell pepper. So we'll see how that does. Basil's doing great. I did actually finally go pick some basil and turned it into pesto. And oh my gosh, it was so good. I actually put cashew nuts in mine. You can put pine nuts. You can put pecans, whatever kind of nut you want. And I have a real basic recipe I'll show you guys. But this was incredible. I mixed this kind, which is like a milder flavor, with my Genoese, and I put it in, I have one of those like Ninja blender things, and I just put it in like the smoothie cup, and it had the best consistency. It was real creamy and smooth. I felt like I was at a 5-star, you know, Michelin star restaurant. It was so good. That's what you get for fresh produce, I guess. These are my Shishitos. You'll notice the bigger ones are not on the plant. Well, I don't know if you'll notice, but the bigger ones are not on the plant anymore because I actually went and finally made some just stir-fried Shishito. We actually put them in the air fryer. Oh my gosh, they were so good. Just a little bit of olive oil, air fryer. It was incredible. Oh my gosh, look at this. Marigold has totally taken over. I'm kind of annoyed at it because it's blocking out my pepper. Take your own space, Marigold. There we go. That'll give it a little more light, actually. Yeah, there we go. But this guy's still doing well. Lots of peppers on the plant. Big plant, so that's good. Oh my gosh, you gotta see these. I feel like just since last week, these peppers got so much bigger. Just my hand for scale. Like, look at that pepper. This is a sweet banana pepper. My daughter loves to just snack on these. They also cook up really well. We've had a few different dishes we've made. A neighbor of ours showed me how to make like a Hungarian dish that involves sweet banana peppers, and oh my gosh, so good. They're just a really light, sweet, mildly flavored, but really tasty, kind of meaty pepper. So highly recommend growing those, especially for kids. Kids love them. I already talked about my beans. I'm really so thrilled that I have beans this year. Can't even get started on that. God, look at that marigold, so pretty. Okay, these are called petite marsales, and I thought petite meant small. I'm starting to think the petite does not mean small, at least in this context. Look how big these guys are. They're so intense. They are supposed to turn red, so I'm still waiting for that to happen, but they look incredible. Oh, okay, so this guy, I don't know if you can see him. Oh, he's gonna be too small. Well, okay, so that little bug, come on, get in focus. Ah, come on, show your face. Okay, well, you can't really see him, but he's got a red head and he's black. That is a mealybug destroyer, the adult form, I'm pretty sure. And so that guy is good. Leave him alone. He is not a flea beetle. He looks like one, but he's not. If he's got a little like brownish red head, not a flea beetle. Okay, a quick update on the sweet potatoes. These are doing great. They're going to produce quite a few slips here. and really healthy ones at that. So I've got a place I'll show you in a minute that I'm probably going to put them because I now have space for them, I think. So we'll give them a few more, maybe another week or so, and then we'll transplant them into their new home. Okay, tomatoes. So we can use that. You can see how high that is. Look at that. Look how high it is above the trellis there. Super intense. Okay, so reminder, this is the early girl. We don't have any tomatoes yet, but I think that one's going to form a tomato pretty soon. So that'll be our first early girl tomato. Not so early this year, I guess, but I did plant that one a little late. Oh my gosh, these look amazing. So I did clean out down here. I've been trying to improve the airflow. Plus there was, especially after all the rain, there was a few branches that had disease on them, just little bits of like that. And so I just went in and pulled off all the branches that had any kind of disease on them. I mean, with a lot of rain and heat and things like that, you're just going to get different diseases. I don't know exactly what this is, but since it's not taking over the plant, it's just sporadically throughout the plant, I'm removing the leaves as I see them and not worrying about it too much. Hi, little friend. This is a super cool caterpillar. It's a beautiful butterfly. I've looked up what it is, and it's really pretty. But I really is liking this dill here, so I'm gonna leave the dill to that guy. Oh, I did notice this another volunteer. So see this leaf? This is part of a cucamelon, which is a little tiny melon. I wasn't planning on planting them this year, but since they're volunteering, I'm gonna let them go. Once these tomatoes kind of die out, that's what happened last year. Once these tomatoes kind of die out in the there's just a little disease on that. Pull it out. Once these tomatoes kind of die off in the hot summer, these cucamelons will take over and just give this soil just a tiny bit of shade, and they're kind of a fun little fruit my daughter likes to pick. So, okay, but let's look at this. Look at this. Oh my gosh. So happy to see these guys. These are yellow plum. I think they'll be real sweet and tasty. And there's lots of them. So that's going to be great. You'll notice as the plant goes further up, when they're smaller, they're a little bit later in their, or a little bit earlier in their development, I guess, later in time. And also sometimes on these smaller branches, as you'll see, like see this guy keeps branching out. So it's branching here and then it's branching here. This is called a sucker, which basically just means it's taking a lot of energy from the main plant. And actually the one that it's on is technically a sucker too. This is also a sucker. I'm letting some of them grow, but not all. What I'm trying to do is just optimize for, strong word, but optimize for airflow within the plant, and also, but also allowing like plenty of fruit. Like this guy, that's just gonna grow in toward the plant and just be a lot of, so I'm just pinching these guys off. And I'm not doing every single one. I used to do every single one, or I have up until this last year, running a little bit of an experiment where I let a lot of the suckers grow and then just remove ones that are particularly kind of in the middle of the plant causing trouble. I'm trying to keep lots of airflow in here. Doesn't feel like a lot of airflow, but I pulled out a lot of the branches and stuff that were in the middle. Another thing that I did, and I'll have posted a video of this, but during the rainstorm I actually came out here and secured a lot of these branches. This plant in particular was really leaning off with all the rain. And that's something to remember, is that when there's a lot of rain, you're going to get a lot of extra weight on your plants. And especially a huge rainstorm like we had, just this whole plant was bowed over. And so I went and kind of either wove it in between the trellis over there or tied it up. And I tried a few out here just to maximize airflow just on this little, these little stakes. You don't really need to do that, but I do kind of like to give my plants as much room as possible. And maybe it looks a little messy toward the end of the season, but that's okay. These guys are my volunteer. They don't have any tomatoes on them yet, but they're going to be little tiny red tomatoes. I actually saw one over here that's pretty close to ripening. This is one of the first ones of the season. So see that little guy right there? That's going to be about the size of it. Just my finger for scale there. They're real little, but they're real sweet and tasty, and my daughter loves them. So worth growing for me, even though they're real small and kind of a pain to pick. All right, I did a video on it. I left 1 or 2 onions in here just to see how they do, but I was really worried with all that rain, and the onions had already kind of bent over and were showing that they were close to maturity. I was really worried that they were going to rot in the ground with all that water, so I ended up pulling them out in the middle of the rainstorm this last week. So that was weekend, which was pretty exciting. But so almost all the onions are out of this bed now, and I've got some tomatoes growing really beautifully. I've been going through and tapping the leaves this morning as I was cleaning out the beds, or tapping the leaves, tapping the blooms. But these guys are doing real well. This is getting toward the top of its stakes. I'm probably gonna have to put a taller stake in there. And again, on this one, I usually cut all the suckers out, like that would be a sucker. But this year I'm running an experiment, and I'm doing less of that and just kind of letting them get a little more bushy as long as there's decent airflow. This one I'd probably see how kind of intense these leaves are. I'd probably remove, gosh, I may need a clippers. Probably remove a few of these in here, just to give it, and I'm not being terribly picky, but see how that you can kind of see through the branches now. It just gives it a little more airflow, especially down here at the base. And see, you can't really tell, but there's a sucker down here. I don't like them growing from the base after the plant's established, because it's going to take them a lot to get to sunlight, and I just think it creates crowding near the base. So, but this is all personal preference. I mean, there's lots of folks that come in and they trim to a single stalk, and I think most folks though tend to at least trim their tomatoes away from the soil, because there we go. Okay, I'm done. The soil really is where a lot of the diseases come from for tomatoes. And so just giving it good airflow, and also trimming it up and away from the soil so that when it rains heavy, the diseases aren't bouncing back off the soil into the plant. I do have some mulch in here, so that's probably helping a little bit prevent disease from bouncing back up, but and I'll add some more later, but there is a decent amount of soil in here that's exposed, and always good to prevent disease wherever we can and as early as we can. You'll see the pill bugs are kind of an indication of what's diseased. There's a bunch of them there on that branch. I'm just gonna pull it off. If they're already chewing on it, we're kind of done with that branch. So anyway, just a little quick tutorial on well, I thought I was done cleaning up my garden for the day, but I guess I'm not. All right. Okay, so this guy is a Red Pride. It is just kind of like a paste tomato, though it's not the same shape as a Roma. It's really a pretty rounded fruit. I'm really excited to try this. I've not tried it before, so we'll see how that goes. Ooh, that guy's so close to ready. I don't know if you can see that blackberry over there. But look at these. They're starting to turn. I love these fruits. They're such lovely fruits. So this one, I'm going to show you because I don't think it's ready. Yeah, it's not ready. Okay, so see how it looks ready? But right over there on the back, it's got that little bit of, not in focus. It's got that little bit of red. And so I'm going to leave it. I'm probably going to come pick it this afternoon though. There's a couple more beauties about ready to be eaten. All right, these guys are taking off. They're doing pretty well. Don't mind the holes in the plant. That's, who knows, that could be any kind of pest. It's probably flea beetles, because flea beetles love these guys, and slugs and bugs and everything else. But I'll probably, so when they get kind of skeletonized like that, I'll just pull off the leaves. Because they're like I've said before, not very good solar panels at that point. Little strawberry bush. I have planted things here and over there in a few of these spots, and hopefully they'll fill in. This guy obviously already got mowed down, but I planted new seeds, so I can't even remember what I planted here at this point. I planted so many different things trying to get them to come up. I think it's cucumbers now. These, though, are doing pretty well. I've got 2 plants because I have such a high casualty rate. I'm gonna pull out this one, but I'm gonna leave the other two. These are Sugar Baby Watermelon, and this one is a cantaloupe type melon called Madhuras. It's a really lovely Indian variety that does really well in the heat. And look at that. There's flowers on this guy, so we should have eggplants soon. I'm going to have to figure out what to do with eggplants. It's always my struggle every year. They grow so well here. I grow them, but I don't always know what to do with them. Oh, I forgot about this pepper. This guy's insane. And it is starting to change colors. That looks like maybe it'll be orange. This one maybe will be purple. We'll see. But there's so many peppers on there. It's a little unreal. Super cool. I don't want to talk about the Johnson grass. Like, I just don't even want to talk about it. This is why I do raised beds. This Johnson grass and this flower bed is so annoying. Oh, look at that. Look at that new shoot of growth on my rose bush there. Wow, super cool. And this butterfly bush is doing really well. Much happier than it was last year. Sweet potatoes are doing pretty well in here. We've got the vines starting to kind of bend over, but yeah, all the plants have survived so far. Woohoo! Over here, you're gonna notice a big change. I actually did a quick video on this. I went in and found a different netting that I had and put it up. I'm gonna have to fix it in a few places. My daughter came in the middle of me setting this up and informed me it was time to go to school. So I'll have to fix it in a few spots. But this will keep the vine borers out as is even, hopefully. So I think we should be good. But now I can actually see my plants. I can see when I have female and male blooms. So there's one netting across the front here. So the new netting is across the front. You'll see it's a little more sheer. It's just bug netting. And then the original was bug netting too, but it was like a less see-through material, I guess. And then this one's over the front. But this should definitely keep out the vine borers. And the biggest thing is it's a lot less restrictive. And so it's going to allow this plant to get as big as maybe not as big as it wants to get, but a lot bigger. And I think there's even going to be a little more light flow in there. So really excited about that. These plants were really bulging at the seams. You'll see from my video where I fixed that. You guys are looking great. Oh, look, this one's finally starting to catch on and vine up. That's my scarlet runner bean. Hopefully I'll get my first scarlet runner beans this year. We'll see. Knock on wood. It's funny. I almost can't touch the plant in the video anymore because it's so big. But that is my eggplants. And again, this guy on the right is still a little stunted, but the guy on the left is doing really well. So cannot wait for those guys to really get going. They're just starting out right now. All right, this is one of those places where things died out during the rainstorm, and I decided to pull them out. I had that big, beautiful parsley plant, and yes, I'm a little bit sad about it because it was that beautiful butterfly plant. Don't even know what happened to the butterflies, but it's okay. It was fully rotted. It was fully flattened out. It needed to go. So I think I'm gonna plant, just because they're real pretty, I think I'm gonna plant sweet potatoes in here and just fill the bed with sweet potatoes. Those lettuces are flowering right now, so they'll be going out soon. And I'll just plant the sweet potato slips whenever they're ready in this bed. They'll spill over the edge. It'll look real pretty. There's one little thing of kale in here. He looks pretty sad, but I'm gonna leave him for now and see if he recovers. And then this was actually just meant to be ornamental, but had gotten covered out by other things in the bed. And so, oh, it's a flowering kale. Oh, I thought it was an ornamental. It says it's an accent plant. Well, I don't know if you can eat that or not. Well, anyway, that was just in there to look pretty, basically, and it got completely covered by another plant. Ooh, but this guy's doing really well. This is a nostrum. It's a beneficial plant. It's also just real pretty, so I always like to plant them wherever I can. That one actually volunteered. I've got my flower bed. It's doing a little bit better. It's super random this year. Some things have come back. Some things I tried to plant died. So, quick update on the fig bush. It is, I feel like it keeps just getting bigger. Is that my imagination? Not sure. feel like you couldn't see the door before, or you could completely see the door before when I was standing here. Anyway, these things get really big. No update on the fruit yet. Still growing, but nothing ripe yet. Hopefully soon. I cannot wait. Might even be able to make fig jam this year. Oh my gosh, that would make me so happy. And then I'm going to want to plant another fig bush, and my husband's going to not love that. It's all good. Sunflowers. This one got beheaded, but it's lots of little shoots are coming off, so I think it's going to be fine. And I don't know if these guys are, most of them survived the storm. I don't know if they're actually going to produce flowers or not because they're in the shade here, but we'll see. I may need to like stake that really tall one too. But that guy fell over. That one I'll take out. No, those two probably. That's not bad for considering how much rain we had. That's not too bad of a casualty, especially on volunteers. I only have one pumpkin so far. Again, this is just totally an experiment I'm letting run wild. That guy looks fabulous. We'll see how he does. Oh, there's a second one. Well, I don't know if that got pollinated or not. We'll see. I don't see any more female fruit today. I think the rain kind of slowed the roll of the female fruit, but should pick back up in the next few days. I did finally pick some basil. This was fabulous. I picked some of this and some of the other, just kind of chopped off and trimmed it back a little. And I made the most incredible pesto. I got one strawberry. Oh, I was going to show you. I got one strawberry off of this plant over here. There's a second one. We'll see if it ripens before I get to it, but I got one this weekend. I think it was because the squirrels got rained out, so we'll see. There's more strawberries coming. We said they're June bearing. We'll see. I just realized there's carrots growing in here. I completely forgotten I planted carrots a million years ago. Definitely need to pull those out. Look, they're getting like a rust. That's not good. Okay, so let's talk about weeds versus not weeds. So that plant right there, I can't remember what it is. I found it in my garden before. It's beneficial. Like it's good for the soil. So I'm leaving it. It's like kind of like a comfrey type plant. This guy I can pull out. Oh, maybe I can pull it out. Yeah, that guy can pull out. But these guys are actually, they're good for the soil. And so I'm going to leave them. I know I'm not growing anything here, but ground cover isn't always the worst thing. These guys don't bother me. They're good for the soil, and so I don't mind them growing. Even though they're technically a weed, you get to decide what's a weed in your garden. And I'm going to let these guys go. Okay, and I love growing flowers because it's just that pop of color that kind of makes your day. Look at that. You'd think all the flowers would be totally melted with all this rain, but still gorgeous as always. Hi, nostrum. Ooh, and look, we're about to get another. That one just closed up, or is it starting to open? Petunia. These are something called white cascade. I love them. And I love these two-tone nostrums. I don't remember what packet I even bought, but this is the first year I've really gotten nostrums, so I've been thoroughly enjoying it. Oh, another strawberry. Yay. I'm letting these guys dry out in here. I'm glad I did because it's been raining so much. It's been hard to, I think it would have been hard to let them dry out. We'll see. They may not. They may rot. But I'm trying to save them. They had gone bad anyway. These are my onions. They're doing great. Drying out in here. I picked them during the rainstorm on this weekend. This is my backup basil. Seems to be doing okay. I'd meant to plant this whole pot full, but it chose to just grow in that little corner. These guys, I really do think they're doing a lot better in here versus out in the rain. They're just much healthier than I've ever seen them before, so I'm gonna leave these in here as long as possible. Those are my Myers lemons. Oh, let's see, how hot is it in here today? 92 degrees. Yeah, it's a little warm. I always keep a watering bucket with a little bit of water in it because my hose is really far away. And I go, oh shoot, I need to water something. I can just grab the bucket and give it a little drink. Little drink without having to run all the way back across the yard and fill everything up. All right, thanks for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate you kind of listening to my garden ramblings. I I don't have a lot of local friends that are super into gardening I can talk to about my garden, and so this has really given me an outlet to talk about it, to explain some of the reasons why I do what I do, and just share some of the knowledge that I've built up over the last 8 years. I really appreciate you hanging out with me and kind of listening to my garden tours. I love walking through the garden. If nothing else, I love doing it just so I can look back next year during the winter and kind of see when to plant things and how big things actually got, and remind myself not to plant too many tomatoes in one bed or whatever it is. But I hope you learned something. I hope this inspired you to try gardening if you haven't yet. Don't be discouraged if it's your first year. Keep getting inspiration for what to grow. And I hope that this is helpful to you and that you enjoyed it. Anyway, have a wonderful day, and I appreciate you as always. And good luck. You got this. You can do it. Thanks. Bye.